So now it's my great pleasure to welcome today's speaker, Tagwongo Obomsawin. Tagwongo serves as the Clean Energy Partnership Program Manager for the Governor's Energy Office, and she grew up in Farmington, completed her undergraduate degree in economics right here at the University of Maine with a concentration in renewable energy policy. And as you'll hear, she's putting all that training to good use. While she was here doing her undergraduate degree, one of her undergraduate advisors was Sharon Klein, who gave a talk maybe last semester about a bunch of work on sustainable energy. Tagwongo was also a research assistant with Caroline Noblet and Kathleen Bell on a project that was based at the Mitchell Center called the Safe Beaches and Shellfish Project. It was supported by a major grant from the National Science Foundation and continues to this day. Tagwongo went on to complete her MBA at Bard College, during which time she was working with Ocean Renewable Power Company, and a number of Mitchell Center researchers have also worked with that company over the years as part of our effort to evaluate the potential for tidal energy in and beyond Maine. And if you haven't already noticed, we're pretty shameless about our desire to take partial credit for the great work of students that go on from UMaine to do wonderful work. So thank you, Tagwongo, for making this look so good. Please join me in welcoming Tagwongo to the Mitchell Center.
Thank you so much for that warm introduction, David. Just gonna share my screen quickly. All right, looks all set on my end, so hopefully you're all seeing that slide projected. So again, my name's Tagwongo Obomsawin. I am a program manager within the state of Maine Governor's Energy Office. I'm going to start by introducing the Energy Office and Maine's climate and energy goals, then discuss some clean energy workforce research and analysis, and highlight clean energy workforce development projects funded by the Governor's Energy Office and with funds from the Maine Jobs and Recovery Plan. So just to orient you to the work of the Governor's Energy Office, if you're not already familiar, our office was established within the executive department and is directly responsible to the governor. The GO is tasked with activities related to state energy policies, planning, and development. We work on a wide range of energy issues and are responsible for providing policy leadership and technical assistance, delivering energy programming, monitoring energy markets, and reporting on heating fuel and energy prices. If you're not already familiar with Maine's climate and clean energy targets, here's a handy summary for you. We've got many greenhouse gas reduction targets outlined in state law and a host of other goals that support a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions and related climate and economic development objectives. So as you can see laid out on this slide, we're targeting a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions of 45% below 1990 levels by 2030 and 80% below 1990 levels by 2050. We're also supporting a transition to clean energy, 80% by 2030 and 100% by 2040. This includes achieving carbon neutrality by 2045 and creating 30,000 clean energy jobs by 2030. The Maine Climate Council delivered Maine's Climate Action Plan in 2020, which outlines numerous strategies to achieve these objectives and ensure that our communities, industries, and people are resilient to the impacts of climate change. And critically, we need a skilled local workforce that's prepared to do the work to achieve these targets, and that's what we hope to support via the Clean Energy Partnership Program, achieving Governor Mills's goal of growing the clean energy workforce to 30,000 workers by 2030 from a baseline of roughly 14,000 in 2019. If you're not familiar with what emissions look like in the state of Maine, and I'm sure that many of you are, the bulk of our emissions come from the transportation sector, with another 30% from residential and commercial buildings, followed by 12% in the industrial sector, and 5% from electric power. You'll notice that electric power makes up a very small amount of our emissions. We already generate half of our electricity from renewable sources. And since our regional electric grid has high renewable energy standards, we want to electrify homes and businesses as much as possible. So to address these important challenges, the Mills administration and the legislature have acted to put in place multiple policies to transition Maine away from our over-reliance on costly emitting fossil fuels toward affordable and renewable and clean energy. Here's a couple of these important policy objectives laid out and summarized to highlight a few. 80% of electricity delivered in Maine to be renewable by 2030. You saw that on the previous slide as well. A reduction in dependence on oil and electrification of heating and transportation to achieve emissions reduction requirements. If you're interested in following along with the progress towards achieving these climate objectives, there's numerous studies that have been developed as part of the 4-year plan for climate action, or Maine Won't Wait. You can find all of these reports, including the 1-year and upcoming 2-year progress reports on maine.gov/climate plan. And there's also a dashboard that summarizes a lot of the metrics and investments that we're making to support the achievement of these strategies. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of the work of the Governor's Energy Office, the Maine Climate Council, and how those are supported by policy objectives at the state level. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the work of the Clean Energy Partnership Program. And as I mentioned, this program was established to advance Maine's clean energy, climate, economic development, and workforce goals. The partnership is led by the Governor's Energy Office in close coordination with the Governor's Office of Policy Innovation in the Future, the Department of Labor, Department of Economic and Community Development, and other state agencies. The program is funded with $6.5 million from the Maine Jobs and Recovery Plan. And the GO is also administering grant funding to support clean energy workforce development and innovation, along with developing a clearinghouse website for clean energy career information, including internship and apprenticeship opportunities, training and educational programs, career openings, and an outline of clean energy sector career pathways. These programs are strengthened by an additional $4 million in other federal funds for clean energy workforce development coming from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and Inflation Reduction Act. To help guide this program, the Clean Energy Partnership has convened an advisory group to provide information and feedback as initiatives are designed and implemented. This includes defining needs, monitoring progress, advising on adjustments, and designing future programming. All of the meetings of the Clean Energy Partnership Advisory Group are open to the public, and we would welcome you all to join them. Presentations from past meetings are also available on the GO's website. All right, so now a bit of a transition to talking about some of the clean energy workforce development research and analysis. So a lot of people ask, which is a great question, so what are clean energy jobs specifically? And our answer is that clean energy workers are workers who spend any amount of their labor hours dedicated to clean energy goods and services. Those include 153 different professions across construction, installation, maintenance and repair, energy production, professional services, sales and administrative support, transportation and material moving, and agriculture. What you're looking at on this slide is a grouping of these different types of occupations along the continuum of technology development and commercialization. So all the way to the left, during the research and development stages, you have a lot of 4-year or advanced degree or professional license professions. Those are mainly in research and design and engineering. And then as technology becomes more commonplace, more mature, and more widely available, you start to move into different types of employment, and the umbrella of the clean energy job types becomes much wider. You've got construction, installation, manufacturing, production, repairs, operations and maintenance, and sales and service. And a lot of these professions offer really accessible entry-level positions to start and follow a clean energy workforce development pathway that includes apprenticeship, certifications, and a lot of different ways that you can earn money while continuing your education. At a national level, the number of US energy sector jobs grew 3.8% from 2021 to 2022, and clean energy jobs grew 3.9%, outpacing overall US employment, which increased just 3.1% in the same time period. So what does this look like in Maine specifically? The Governor's Energy Office has engaged consultants to profile our clean energy industry and engage stakeholders around specific business and workforce challenges. And as part of the body of research contributing to the Maine Offshore Wind Initiative, consultants also completed a detailed analysis of the offshore wind talent landscape in Maine. You're seeing 3 reports detailed here, which are all available on our website. The key research activities were to define clean energy and related employment, engage stakeholders, identify employer needs and challenges, understand the training and asset landscape, and profile current and potential clean energy workers. The team conducted a series of interviews with 23 clean energy industry stakeholders across the state of Maine, and also surveyed existing and potential clean energy workers, a total of 553, to characterize the talent pipeline. So here's some data points that help define our clean energy workforce in 2021. At the end of 2021, there are about 14,500 clean energy jobs and 2,458 clean energy businesses in Maine, categorized among energy efficiency, renewable electric power generation, grid modernization and energy storage, renewable fuels, and alternative transportation. Over half of Maine's clean energy workers are employed in the energy efficiency sector, engaged in building electrification, weatherization, and other energy efficiency measures. These jobs include any workers directly involved with clean energy technologies, including professional services like consulting, finance, tax, and legal. But in addition to these jobs, there are 142,000 workers in related occupations like electricians or HVAC mechanics that are not conducting clean energy work currently, but could in the future. The clean energy sector saw significant growth prior to the global pandemic. So from 2016 through 2019, clean energy businesses in Maine grew their workforce by 11%, creating roughly 1,500 jobs in 3 years. The sector did experience job losses during the pandemic, but experienced a strong post-pandemic recovery as well, with 5% job growth from 2020 to 2021. And just for reference, to take a look at a little bit of a regional comparison, Vermont has 17,984 clean energy jobs and leads the nation in clean energy jobs per capita. And our neighbor to the south, Massachusetts, has 104,000 clean energy workers and consistently ranks among leading states for clean energy infrastructure policy programs and entrepreneurship. And just one more data point. The top 5 counties employing clean energy workers in Maine in order are Cumberland, Penobscot, York, and Kennebec counties. Just to take a look at demographics in the clean energy workforce, it's largely representative of our overall employment, except you'll notice that the representation of women is pretty dramatically underrepresented in clean energy, accounting for roughly 1/4 of Maine's clean energy workforce compared to 52% of the state's overall workforce. Our clean energy workforce is more representative, very slightly, by race and ethnicity, and has a strong representation of veterans relative to the overall workforce. The underrepresentation of women in Maine's clean energy workforce is representative of national clean energy workforce demographics, although there has been progress made recently in this industry, which is exciting to celebrate. Nationally, the number of women working in energy increased by 7.8% in 2022, and over half of the net jobs added in 2022 were held by women. So these studies and research analyses also produced recommendations to strengthen our clean energy workforce and expand access for Mainers. Some of the challenges that were identified through these research studies included a small applicant pool that correlates with low overall unemployment in the state, candidates lacking necessary experience and generally low awareness of career opportunities, which lead to likely bottlenecks in clean energy job growth across the state. At the same time, existing clean energy workers across the state were highly satisfied with their careers, including their wages, benefits, and opportunities for upward mobility, all career aspects that are typically of high importance to job seekers. Based on these findings, Maine has a significant opportunity to bridge the workforce gap by expanding outreach and raising awareness of these career opportunities among key populations in the state. 5 recommendations were developed to address these findings and the workforce development needs uncovered by these analyses, and 2 additional recommendations were provided by the Maine Climate Council's Equity Subcommittee. These include expanding access to apprenticeships and paid on-the-job training opportunities, increasing the offerings of relevant courses and curriculum modules in early education settings, and supporting pathways to entrepreneurship for lower wage jobs. Additionally, these studies highlighted the need to establish a single entity through which all stakeholders coalesce their efforts in order to streamline clean energy workforce development in Maine. This includes convening community colleges, universities, middle and high schools, utilities, labor unions, and businesses. And our hope is that with improved connectivity, knowledge sharing, and education and outreach, the state can take advantage of its really strong network of community colleges, technical schools, and union apprenticeship programs, and meet the needs of clean energy businesses today and into the future. Accordingly, Maine is investing in a diverse set of workforce programs supporting the energy transition. And we're very excited that we had a visit by First Lady Jill Biden earlier this year to see SMCC's workforce training programs in electric vehicles. We also had the White House Climate Advisor visit Kennebec Valley Community College to celebrate achieving our state's heat pump installation targets earlier this summer. So these are some of the tools in the toolbox that we're reaching for when we think about clean energy workforce development, just to set the stage for some of the project examples that we're going to go into in a few minutes. So first is no-cost workforce training courses, typically offered through the Maine Community College system. There are many course offerings in heat pump installation, weatherization, solar installation, and EV service and repair. These are for folks that are looking to get some experience and training before they enter a job, or looking to gain new skills in jobs that they have currently and learning how to work with new technologies. Another avenue for workforce development is apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship programs. The Maine Apprenticeship Program, which sits within the Department of Labor, has recently offered quite a bit of funding to expand the apprenticeship program. And those included several apprenticeship programs focused on clean energy, including both pre-apprenticeship and apprenticeship programs in electrical and in other trades. There's also program and equipment upgrades to train high school and community college students on EV and other clean energy technology service and repair, super important. And last but certainly not least, clean energy internship programs for Maine college students and residents, including wraparound support services. And I'll talk a little bit more about that program in the upcoming slides. So the Governor's Energy Office was really excited to be able to offer grants for workforce development supporting clean energy companies. Earlier or late last year in December, our office awarded approximately $2.5 million to 9 entities for projects supporting solar, energy efficiency, and offshore wind, and the construction trades professionals that drive clean energy technology deployment in Maine as well. You can see some of the grant recipients on the right-hand side. These initiatives are broadly focused on workforce attraction, career training and upskilling, and facilitating entry into rewarding and high-paying jobs through new and expanded internship, registered apprenticeship, and pre-apprenticeship models. One of the overarching aims of these initiatives is to remove barriers to participation and increase diversity and representation in the clean energy workforce. These projects also include free industry credentialing opportunities in solar and energy efficiency, subsidized internship opportunities at clean energy companies, new training, credentialing, and education programs in offshore wind, and low-cost, low-barrier workforce trainings in building energy codes and electric vehicle maintenance and repair. So we're super excited to be supporting these projects and even more excited about how these efforts might leverage the workforce development infrastructure already in place in Maine and grow as Maine accesses additional funding from bipartisan infrastructure law and the Inflation Reduction Act. So now I'm going to spend some time walking through a couple of programs. They're going to follow a similar format as I go through these, so apologies if it gets a little redundant for you. We're starting off with a really exciting project by Down East Community Partners. So DCP is a community action agency that administers programs that seek to improve the quality of life and reduce the impact of poverty in Down East communities in Maine. And these include home repair and weatherization projects using federal funds from the Weatherization Assistance Program. So what they've been up to is they've actually created a weatherization training program in-house, which combines community college courses with industry credentialing and on-the-job training, which they're offering. DCP wanted to establish an in-house weatherization crew specifically to achieve the following objectives. One, first and foremost, lowering the cost for weatherization projects, improving the quality of work for these projects, and reducing the time needed to complete projects. The in-house weatherization crew is really beneficial in this region in particular because it addresses an issue with contractor scarcity in rural Down East Maine. Reputable contractors are often booked for several months or longer, while many contractors are not willing to travel to remote locations where the work might be taking place for several weeks at a time. So Down East Community Partners was able to recruit a cohort of 9 who gained skills and certifications necessary to be employed as a weatherization technician. Each member of the cohort received some combination of training and certifications, including lead awareness, asbestos awareness, OSHA 10, CPR first aid, and some certifications from the Building Performance Institute, including the building science principles, building analyst technician, and building analyst professional. Upon successfully completing this 4-week phase, which was hosted by the community college, participants were able to apply to earn 3 credits from Washington County Community College. This was followed by 16 weeks of on-the-job training with Down East Community Partners, where they completed 9 weatherization jobs, including a mobile home weatherization project and a stick-built home weatherization project under the supervision of experienced weatherization technicians. And in this picture, you can see some of their technicians addressing insulation issues underneath the home, as well as a nice group shot outside of their crew van. So why this project is important, not only does it address needs for safety and comfort for residents in Down East Maine. But Maine has also established a goal to double the pace of home weatherization, including increasing low-income residential units per year. This weatherization training program demonstrates one model for achieving just that. All right. So we're also very excited to support Revision Energy with their electrical apprenticeship expansion and career outreach program. Revision Energy is an employee-owned B Corp and full-service renewable energy contracting firm and registered electrical apprenticeship program sponsor. Revision secured funding to support coordinated outreach across Maine to highlight the importance of clean energy careers for aspiring professionals and increase the accessibility of these careers for our community members. So why did they set out to do this? So Revision recognized that one of the biggest threats to our fight against the climate crisis is a lack of qualified trades professionals and electricians in particular. In 2018, they created their own training center and established an electrical apprenticeship program, which was the first of its kind in the US to provide aspiring solar electricians with an employer-based electrical apprenticeship that includes related technical instruction. And they didn't stop at electrical apprenticeships. This year, Revision launched a pre-apprenticeship program to serve communities historically excluded from the construction trades, developed innovative solar apprenticeship programs, including in PV design and customer service, and reached over 600 K-12 students with climate and clean energy education via their Tiny Climate Classroom initiative. In the picture, you're looking at their mascot named Sunsquatch. This is the Tiny Climate Classroom. You can't see very well, but the classroom does have solar panels mounted on the roof, as well as a heat pump, which allows students to get familiar with the new types of technologies that they might be seeing in their homes as we continue along the energy transition. So why does this matter? Reaching our climate goals will require a huge collective shift in our perception of the trades and the work needed to build an electrified, equitable future. And despite the great need for electricians, many who are interested in such a career often find themselves without adequate support or a clear pathway to achieve their professional goals. So this project is an example of models for K-12 outreach and accessible pathways to career training and advancement. We're also excited to support Associated General Contractors of Maine with their construction immersion pre-apprenticeship program. So who they are, Associated General Contractors of Maine is a commercial construction trade association representing open shop, union, employee-owned, general contractors, construction managers, specialty contractors, service providers, and developers. They were awarded funding to develop a construction immersion pre-apprenticeship program designed for local graduating high school students as an introduction to careers in the trades. During the course of the program, students receive OSHA 10 and first aid CPR certifications and a multi-craft core construction curriculum, including a basic introduction to construction math, construction safety, hand tools, and power tools. AGC Maine recognized that the construction industry and clean energy infrastructure needed qualified skilled workers and created the Maine Construction Academy to expand upon training that they were already delivering to organizations. In this last year, AGC Maine launched 4 Construction Academy programs located at Brewer High School, Biddeford Regional Center of Technology, Bath Regional Technical School, and Westbrook Regional Vocational School. 50 students completed the program, earning a cumulative total of 213 certificates and gaining exposure to 13 different construction crafts, including hydroelectric facility maintenance, HVAC, plumbing and electrical, and concrete foundations. So why does this program matter in particular? Maine has an above average concentration of construction and installation jobs and a strong regional training system for these types of jobs, including apprenticeship programs. These are occupations which are absolutely pivotal to the clean energy sector. And this project demonstrates a connected training pathway from high school to apprenticeship programs, allowing students to explore career options in the trades and earn a paycheck while they continue their learning. So Northeast Energy Efficiency Partnerships has established the Remain Internship Program, which is well on its way to placing interns at companies across the state of Maine. So if you're not familiar with Northeast Energy Efficiency Partnerships, or NEEP, they're a nonprofit organization that promotes the adoption of modern and affordable energy efficiency and building decarbonization solutions. NEEP's work includes partnering with state and local governments to develop policies related to workforce development, training, and hiring standards as well. The Remain Internship Program aims to place entry-level candidates in 240-hour paid internship positions with clean energy employers and is modeled after the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center's internship program. The Remain program uses grant funding to subsidize 50% or more of the wages, manage payroll and HR, offer travel stipends, and provide additional training. And yes, they are still recruiting for another upcoming cohort. So if you know any clean energy businesses that would love to participate in this program, please send them our way. This project was created because clean energy employers need workers, but many job seekers are unaware of career opportunities in clean energy and may lack relevant work experience. So in order to find the best candidates for employers, NEEP and project partners provided tailored internship matches by comparing resumes and job descriptions. Since May 2023, the Remain Internship Program has placed 26 interns across a variety of clean energy professions. The positions included weatherization technicians, heat pump installers, engineers, building code enforcement support interns, community resilience and energy efficiency interns, and more. This project focusing on entry-level workers is so important because Maine has an aging workforce and a population that's growing more slowly than is needed to support the demands of the clean energy sector. So new entrants into the workforce are critical to meet employer demand. The Remain Internship Program demonstrates a model for career entry with a highly responsive recruitment strategy and flexible wraparound support services to support entrants who may have different needs and requirements and be at different stages of their career pathway. If you're not familiar with the work of Passive House Maine, they're a nonprofit that provides training and education for builders, architects, and engineers to reduce energy and carbon impacts from the built environment, including specifics in construction details, site management, and software use for energy load projection and identification of building envelope weaknesses. Passive House Maine received funding to deliver their one-day builder trainings around the state, focused on advanced building techniques, including air sealing strategies, thermal bridge mitigation, and continuous insulation, all with the under the umbrella of the Maine Uniform Building and Energy Code and stretch codes. This project was important because it addresses a need for accessible training and upskilling opportunities for the building and construction workforce. This is really critical to meet the challenges of building the needed housing in Maine and to retrofit our existing building stock to both mitigate climate change and adapt to increasingly extreme weather events. Since December of last year, Passive House Maine has delivered 21 trainings across Maine, from York to Rangeley to Holton and Machias, reaching over 250 participants. This is really critical work because simply exposure to systems, materials, and orders of operations and components bring a traditional builder up to a contemporary builder and help open the conversation around the building energy code and what techniques and materials can be used and adapted to meet the code in a flexible way. We were also really excited to partner with the University of Maine on a project that addresses the offshore wind industry. I'm assuming that you all are familiar with the University of Maine, so I'll save the intro. So what the university was able to do is create an undergraduate concentration in offshore wind energy engineering, including the development of a graduate level wind energy engineering course, an offshore wind farm engineering course for undergraduate and graduate students, a marine operations class module about building and installing offshore wind technology, and an interdisciplinary course on offshore wind energy stakeholder challenges. They also created new micro-credentials, including offshore wind model testing, lab instrumentation, protected species observing, and remotely operated vehicle utilization. This project also provided opportunities for curriculum development for Maine high school students through the Windstorm Challenge, which is an engineering design competition for Maine middle and high school students to design a floating offshore wind hull and test it at the Advanced Structures and Composites Center. So that's what you see going on in the photo to the right there. This project helps meet the workforce demand of the offshore wind industry by offering students more training for future careers, and also micro-credentials that can flexibly be administered to meet learners where they are and adapt to new technology needs. So this is actually one of the first ever courses on offshore wind farm engineering in the US, which was offered in spring 2023. 41 students took the course the first time it was offered, which I've heard is pretty good for an elective at 400, 500 level. The Windstorm Challenge also attracted a record number of students in 2023, with 565 middle and high school students participating in the event. So I hope that gives you a good idea of some of the program activities that we've been supporting via funding from the Clean Energy Partnership Program. Here's just zooming out even further to look at the program impact as a whole. So we've piloted a lot of different programs focusing on apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship, education and outreach, train the trainer, industry engagement, and training and credentialing. We've reached and hope to do even better at reaching some of our target populations that fall into underserved category or categories of interest, including K through 12 youth, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and justice-involved individuals. We've reached over 2,000 participants, including 319 who've received some combination of training, credentialing, and job placement, and over 1,700 who've received some form of education and outreach. Overall, 30 Maine businesses or community organizations received economic assistance as a result of these funds, and 18 new career development or job training programs were offered as a result of these funds. So at this point, I may be a little early, but I am happy to take any questions. I think perhaps I'll stop sharing my screen for this portion. And yeah, I hope you guys have learned a little bit more about this program and the work of the Governor's Energy Office. We really thank you for coming today and welcome any questions that you might have.
Let's give Tagwongo a big round of applause. So Linda, thank you. It's great to have you there thinking about getting our conversation going. So great talk, Tagwongo.
Really a great talk. Can you hear me? Am I
Yes.
loud enough? Great. Um, the first thing that I think we all want to do is ask you, how should we celebrate the successes that you're having, and how do you celebrate them? Because you have made this sound like it just happens. Nothing like this ever just happens. There's some amazing things going on here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, absolutely. These things do not just happen. We wish that we could be reaching even more participants. We want to get those numbers up and up. We're so thankful to have really incredible partners that have been trying new things and doing a lot of legwork to connect stakeholders and reach people where they are at and understand the needs of our workforce. We I mentioned really briefly that we're developing a clean energy clearinghouse website that's going to do a little bit more to publicize some of these results and share the good news and opportunities that are upcoming with folks. I would definitely recommend everyone sign up for the Governor's Energy Office newsletter and communications from the Maine Climate Council as well.
How do we do that?
Oh, yes. So maine.gov/energy for Governor's Energy Office newsletter, and then maine.gov/climate plan for the Maine Climate Council.
And can you say that just once more for those of us that are typing quickly but not quickly enough?
Yes, of course. Maine.gov/energy and maine.gov/climate plan. I can put those in the chat too.
Wonderful. Wonderful. People are interested in, are there new funding cycles for the program coming up?
So Governor's Energy Office and multiple state agencies are coordinating on tracking funding opportunities that are coming out of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and Inflation Reduction Act. New things are being announced every day. So another reason to sign up for those newsletters. The state of Maine is eligible to apply for certain programs just as formula funding. So there will be opportunities if everything goes right and we get our applications in on time. There will be additional workforce development opportunities specifically focused towards contractors and a lot in the energy efficiency space. So keep an eye out for public engagement opportunities and public comment opportunities to help shape successful applications for the state.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. People are interested in that women are underrepresented in energy workforce demographics. Are there things that we can do that you think would make a difference there?
Yeah, so I think it's really interesting what the picture is for representation of women in the clean energy workforce. It's compounded by a lot of the professions that make up the clean energy workforce. So at every level, you're seeing a little bit of underrepresentation, which compounds to something that's pretty dramatic overall. I think one of the reasons we were excited about the project that Revision Energy is taking on is that it attempts to reframe conversations about careers in construction and trades and shift the conversation away from, get a degree or else, I don't know. I don't know what you'll do. So talking to kids about career options outside of four-year degrees, something that's very inclusive and focused on the value that these professionals bring to our lives will be super important. Just having those conversations and talking to people about what opportunities exist in a very inclusive way, I think is the best first step that we could take.
Great, thank you. Another thing that people are interested in really is this question of how do children begin to know about these opportunities early, and what are possibilities. And you mentioned one thing that was very interesting for us. You mentioned, in terms of thinking about games, the Windstorm Challenge. I may not be exactly right in terms of the name. Are there other ways that you were thinking about as we reach out to children and children's involvement and in terms of thinking about their future, things that kind of fall within the wheelhouse of what you're doing that would get kids starting to say, I want to be thinking about this.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's such a great question. Thank you. So I think there's a lot of ways that kids who like hands-on projects could find their way towards working with clean energy technologies. There's endless amounts of kits or open source resources, types of analyses that can be easily folded into a classroom setting. If you're having conversations with family members or children about climate change, that's another opportunity to provide examples of ways that you can take agency in the fight against climate change by choosing a career in clean energy, sustainability, environmental science. There's so many ways that people can take action and play a role in the fight against climate change. And I think that's a great way to reframe the conversation away from anxiety towards taking positive changes and having a little bit of control over the situation from your own corner of the world. We've done a lot of work to evaluate open source resources on climate and energy education. So if you have questions or know educators that are interested in learning more, we also have a lot of those resources available and would encourage you to reach out.
Great, thank you. That's very helpful, and I bet you'll be hearing from people. Another question is, could you say a bit more about efforts to focus on rural areas that lacked critical mass of clean energy providers and workers and large distances?
Yeah, that's a great question. It is a really big challenge. So the project example that we shared with Down East community partners transitioning to an in-house crew for weatherization is one way that they're addressing that challenge. It doesn't help with startup of new businesses focused on energy and weatherization contracting in rural areas, which is what we would really love to see. We're definitely focused on within these federal funding opportunities, identifying ways that we might be able to support entrepreneurs with some of those hurdles that they face on the way to starting their businesses or learning how to adapt to specific business models in clean energy industry. So could be, you might see a section of a funding opportunity that's carved out exactly for that purpose. And the other thing we're doing is just trying to make calls and get people to meetings, which is really difficult when they have so many competing priorities, but we're doing our best. And if you have folks that can help us get the word out, we would love to connect with them. So please do reach out.
Great, that's very, very helpful. Another question that people have, which is, we're a tourism state. What do you see as the implications and the opportunities in terms of educating tourists, providing things that help them reduce their use of energy? What should we be thinking about in this area?
That is such an interesting question. So I definitely don't have all of the answers for that one, but I think that addressing our emissions from transportation and building out our electric vehicle charging infrastructure is going to be a really important way that we interface with tourists from a sustainability perspective and facilitate visits from out-of-staters who might be a little bit further ahead on their path to vehicle electrification than we are here in the state of Maine. Highlighting the amazing progress that we've already made in areas of technology adoption like heat pumps is another way I think we really showcase our state's leadership on climate action when it comes to tourism. showcasing heat pumps in buildings where tourists frequent, providing information, I think are all ways that we could start to marry those two worlds a little bit. But I think vehicle electrification and building out that infrastructure is one thing that definitely comes up with the conversation around tourism and building in sustainability.
Thank you for the wonderful responses. David, did you have some in the room?
Linda, I don't see anybody with a hand up, but I have one, so I hope I can squeeze in here too.
Sure.
So Tagwongo, I saw early on in your presentation that there were recommendations that came from the Equity Subcommittee of the Climate Council, and I just wondered, I read what those said, but I wonder what those look like both in the way of challenges and opportunities, and where you see maybe progress already and others where you think there's more work to do.
Absolutely. Thank you. So just for everyone, those recommendations were ensure that tools and resources are designed to support disadvantaged students and job seekers, and identify workers and industries disproportionately impacted by climate change, and identify pathways into clean energy and climate-friendly careers. So one of the first things that we often do is research the problem. So identify workers and industries disproportionately impacted by climate change is one of our first priorities when it comes to those recommendations. There's a variety of efforts underway, and we're looking at kind of harmonizing the workforce analysis that has already been done on the clean energy side and infrastructure workforce side to further identify industries like agriculture or fishing and aquaculture that might be impacted heavily by climate change but haven't just been studied yet. And ensuring that tools and resources are designed to support disadvantaged students and job seekers. We've seen a couple of exciting things piloted during our workforce development projects. One example was a building science principles training that was held, translated in real time in multiple languages. So they facilitated this using a variety of different headphones that were tuned into different channels with translators live translating as the instruction was being delivered, and using grant funds to ensure that these services are available to trainees is just a really excellent way to put program dollars to use. And we hope that other people take cues from that and try to ensure that trainings are developed in the most accessible way possible.
That's great. And here's a related question. So you did some research when you were here working with Caroline and Kathleen. And when you're talking about research to sort of understand some of these challenges or get the data to sort of see where the equity challenges lie, do you ever think that there are roles for the university to play, faculty and students, to help make sense of that? In other words, either to design programs to address equity goals or to evaluate how well they work?
Of course, yes. There's always avenues for public engagement, and we're very interested to partner on data analysis and research. So please feel free to reach out if you have ideas. And again, please sign up for those newsletters and follow our public meetings, and bring your ideas to us, because there's absolutely no shortage of brilliant ideas out there, and a lot of resources coming available too with federal funding. So we're excited to partner and advance research priorities that help bring benefits to the people of Maine.
That's really wonderful, and we will follow up for sure.
Excellent.
So Linda, I think that's it. Oh wait, nope, got a question, and I'll probably repeat it just in case. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, thank you so much for such an informative presentation. For background, I study fisheries, so that's going to be my bias of this question. Specifically the lobster fishery, and I'm pretty involved with the offshore wind. So one of the biggest concerns from at least the fishing industry is that with offshore wind specifically, but also many other sort of like renewable energy development, there's going to be a displacement of jobs of fishers who may lose fishing income and can't continue to fish, or are not able to integrate their current business practices into new clean energy infrastructures. And so recognizing that outside of tourism, fishing is a very big economic driver in the state of Maine, especially in terms of employment. Are there ways, how are you approaching these sort of like transitions between non-renewable resource dependent economies like fishing with diesel and like built like working waterfront infrastructures and then moving it onto things like offshore wind or electric vehicles?
So first, let me just check. Tagwongo, could you understand it? Could you hear that question okay?
Yes, I could. Thank you.
So I think that means the audience can. So I'm not going to attempt to repeat your question. It's a good one. So please go ahead.
Great. Thank you so much for your question. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Maine offshore wind roadmap process, but this was a process that engaged hundreds of stakeholders over the last year and tried to lay out a really thoughtful strategy for responsible development of offshore wind in the Gulf of Maine, including a lot of meetings that were held with input by the fishing community, policymakers focused on the infrastructure side. It really sought to bring everyone to the table and chart a pathway forward that everyone could live with, and really emphasizing transparency and engagement of people along the way. I would definitely encourage you to take a look at the Maine offshore wind roadmap if you haven't already, but know that there's also additional research efforts that are focused on socioeconomic impacts of offshore wind development to come, and would really encourage you to reach out to the folks leading the offshore wind program within the Governor's Energy Office. You can find all of our contact information on our website, and I'm sure Stephanie Watson, who is brilliant and working really hard on offshore wind issues, could tell you about the upcoming research opportunities, specifically addressing some of the questions that you mentioned.
Thank you so much.
That's great.
Thank you.
So I think at that point, we're at about time. And I just want to thank you one more time, Tagwongo, for a lovely talk and lots of people with lots of interest in following up. Okay?
Awesome. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.